afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to COASTER-net Update. We've got some breaking news out of Carowinds, where we have learned that Copperhead Strike is official for 2019, the Mac double launch coaster. Danny, this is one that we've been talking about for a while. It looks like a lot of our speculations were right on the head here. I'll tell you what, I was kind of doubting when I first saw it. I'm like, oh, there's no shed, because when they first showed it, I'm like, they went right into the POV and some of the flyer rounds, and there's definitely a JoJo roll out the station that we talked about.
But then it goes into the shed.
Then it goes into the shed, just like we said it would. We said it would come out of the station and kind of like burrow its way in like a snake. Does exactly that, goes into the shed. You have a little shed experience there, and then you get into your full layout. So, Danny, what are some of your initial impressions here of this Mac double launch, Copperhead Strike?
Well, my first thoughts are we had the layout, right? We've had the layout for some time now.
The layout.
We nailed the shed. We nailed the launch shed at the beginning of the ride.
Which a lot of people were not talking about.
A lot of people didn't think that was going to be the case. And we said they're going to do something like Blue Fire, like Thunderbird. So we got that first and foremost. Also, I was very heavy on, I said that they were going to have similar colors to Thunderbird, the darker brown supports. I thought that we would see some sort of copper orange brownish track, and that's exactly what we got. We have a copper sort of between orange and brown color track, and we've got the dark brown supports. So we'll go there. I think we nailed just about everything that we had been talking about. So for that, Andy, I've got a little glass of Old Smoky Moonshine to celebrate the Copperhead Strike.
Oh, hell, here we go.
I've got the brown color. I've got the butter pecan or butter pecan,
good Lord.
how you will. So
this show just picked up. Business just picked up here, ladies and gentlemen.
That is good stuff. So we're gonna celebrate Copperhead Strike by going down a Copperhead Road there a little bit with the
well, so it's
theming in the shed too, though. It's not just a building. We've got theming in the shed, and we'll see how much that actually plays a role.
Well, they told the whole backstory during this announcement as well, and the backstory is like kind of what we said, that Granny was making the moonshine.
They never said the word moonshine anywhere in which is funny. We were curious how they were gonna skirt around that. Were they gonna just take it head on and be like, yeah, this is a moonshine themed ride, or were they just kind of gonna like let us figure out the details and not?
I'll tell you what, they don't shy away from it either, because you look at the logo, and the logo is of the snake, and the snake is actually
the snake is made of the pipes.
Yeah, it's called the snake inside the moonshine pot. It's where the water kind of starts to cool down again, and or not the water, but the liquor starts to cool down and then eventually comes out.
Mm-hmm.
So you're obviously playing this up, so you're kind of playing both sides of the fence here. The website also goes into the whole secret recipe, what everything meant. I thought that was kind of interesting, that for the first time we actually saw the teaser campaign explained on the website. They did, however, neglect to talk about the posters that were oh so interesting.
They did, which I don't think was a mistake, because as we've been saying for quite some time, we don't think the posters had a whole heck of a lot of meaning. We think the posters really they were just really poking fun at other teaser campaigns, and Granny's Secret Recipe is what really, we said when that first started, this is where we're getting the actual stats about the ride, and this is where they're actually talking about what we're really getting, which ended up being the case. So I'm going to give you 3 or 4 things of my initial impressions here. First of all, the logo, awesome.
Yeah.
Right? The logo is absolutely awesome. It's going to look great on brown shirts, orange shirts, cream-colored shirts. I hope to God there's not black shirts, but I'm sure there will be. There's 3 or 4 different colors that this could look really nice on. I hope they do a lot of good merch, because Cedar Fair has really been knocking it out of the park with logos lately, and for the most part, names have been pretty good as well. I think this is one of the better names. I think this is one of the better logos. I think you've got a lot of different elements here, so that's number one. It's almost got a little bit of a Steel Vengeance feel to it.
Yeah, a little like Vengeance, a little like Iron Rattler feel.
Yeah, it's really, really nice. Second, we see the continuation of the rustic type theming that we've been seeing with the rides like Mystic Timbers and Twisted Timbers in particular. So we're seeing this sort of rustic country type theming again here, which I think works kind of well, especially in the South here. I think this is a real good idea, and it goes along with this whole new area of the park, which, what is it, the Blue Ridge Junction it is here. They'll have a new restaurant there as well, so this is kind of the anchor of this new area. And I don't know if they're shoehorning some of the other stuff that's back there already, like the Southern Star. I don't know if they're kind of shoehorning that in there. That may remain.
I have heard from some of our friends that the flyers are noticeably absent from the video.
Okay.
So they could be moving stuff out of this area.
Right.
To fit more. People have said that they were going to move those flyers a while ago.
Yeah. So. Okay, so those are two things. Now for the ride itself. One, the JoJo roll. Being a Dorney guy, I really like the JoJo roll. Lap bars only on these Mac coasters here. That's going to be a lot of fun. Someone was complaining on Twitter today. They said that Hydra was the worst, or the JoJo roll is the worst part of Hydra because of the over-the-shoulder harnesses. I said there's a lot of candidates for the worst part of Hydra. The JoJo roll is not one of them. So that's going to be really cool. A little bit of theming. You don't need to theme everything to the nines for the theming to be nice. So I think that is going to be nice here. The launches are going to be interesting because they're not super incredibly fast. The first one, 0 to 42 in 2.5 seconds, which our initial reaction was, boy, 0 to 78 in 2 seconds sounds a lot better.
It does sound a lot better, coming from
the second launch from 35 to 50 in 2 seconds. And everyone, you know what? I got to call people out here because people are talking about, 35 to 50, that's not really a big deal. Well, you know what? That's what West Coast Racers is doing on its second launch on each lap there. It's going 35 to 50 to 55, whatever. So if you're complaining about this one, you better be complaining about that one too.
Well, because West Coast Racers, the top speed is 55. So the second launch here is really only 5 miles an hour. You're going 5 miles an hour slower than their first launch.
Yeah, so if you're complaining about the speed and the launch on this one, you better be complaining about that one too.
Yeah.
We'll get to that a little later. Yeah. As far as the layout goes, we've had the layout for a while. The layout itself is not a surprise. However, there were a few things that caught me by surprise on the layout. The 2 vertical loops we knew, the corkscrew we kind of knew, and the JoJo roll we knew. We were kind of trying to find inversions in there. We were like, does it have 4? Does it have 5? The little stall inversion, the cutback sort of thing that we see on Twisted Timbers, Drachenfire did it years and years ago. That I thought was going to be a top hat after the second launch, and it is an inversion. That inversion, along with the 2 vertical loops and the JoJo roll, seem to be taken with a modest amount of speed, which we talk about speed here a lot. However, I think if the elements, these inversions, are taken with a slower amount of speed, and the lap bar only trains are very comfortable on these rides, we could get monster-esque or cannibal-esque hang time in these inversions, which I think that's what is going to separate this ride if it does that. I think the difference between what makes this ride really good and possibly great to fantastic is going to be if those inversions have the sort of hang time that rides like Monster have. Judging by the fly-arounds and the POVs, it looks like there's potential that those inversions could have a significant amount of hang time. And we always talk about how the pacing of Monster is really perfect. I think there's potential for this ride to have that. The ending of the ride has a few too many turns for me, but the first 3/4 of the ride I think looks really solid. And the last point I'll make, the other thing that took me by surprise, is the second launch is over a speed hill. It's not the standard flat launch section. So we could be getting an acceleration as we go over a hill, which is something we don't get a whole heck of a lot of. So I think there's potential for some nice air while you're picking up speed over the speed hill where the second launch is. So I think that could be kind of a sleeper part of this ride. And then you go into a little, so almost like what Iron Rattler does, where it goes over a hill, flattens out, and then Iron Rattler does the overbank. This ride is going to do that cutback stall type element, and then go into the second vertical loop, and then it does sort of a overbank turn, sort of like Blue Fire does. So I think the proper way that I described this ride to you earlier, and then I'll let you chime in here, is this ride to me looks like Time Traveler without the spinning, without the drop, has a few more elements, and has the launch shed and maybe a bit more theme on the front end of the ride outside of the station. Your thoughts?
Well, I'm a little bit different on this ride, where this ride took me by surprise because I've been saying for the longest time that Carowinds, the major hole in their lineup is the lack of a launch coaster.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing is, looking at this layout, I've watched it over and over. I've watched the different fly arounds. I'm not quite sure how to take it. This is one where the POV only takes you so far, and you're going to have to actually ride it to get the real feel, where usually you can kind of get a pretty good feel off the POV from the CGI stuff, assuming that they all do it correctly, and they don't change the stats on it and make it go faster or slower or whatever. But this ride to me seems a lot slower than I thought it was going to be. I kind of went into this morning thinking that we were going to get Blue Fire, something like Blue Fire, and this is not Blue Fire. This is a completely different take. Like you said, this is focusing in on hang time, kind of what Monster does.
I had thoughts of Cannonin when I first saw this ride because of the small vertical loops, the little barrel roll. I think this is more like a Cannonin type ride. It's just more complete of a layout.
And my thing is I don't even know if the launches in this ride are even going to be that big of a factor. I'm not complaining about the speed of the launch. I'm just saying that the launches here don't seem like it's going to be what people come off of it talking about. Where I maybe that second Speed Hill launch will be something really cool. But I really get the feeling that when people exit this ride, they're going to be talking about the inversions. And to me, in my mind, I question, well, Carowinds already has a lot of rides with inversions. They have Vortex. They have, Carolina Cobra or whatever, Flying Cobras that they're calling it now.
Afterburn, Carolina Cyclone, Nighthawk.
They have all these rides with inversions already. Granted, they all do those inversions quickly. This is going to be a shift. And I don't know if they fulfilled that launch coaster requirement that I thought that they were going to get if they built something like Blue Fire, something more along the lines of Maverick, something like that. Regardless, that's my problem. Because that was my expectation. That's not what happened here. So I have to take this for what this is. And for what this is, I like Time Traveler a lot, but I also like Time Traveler because of the spinning. And me and you had this conversation earlier today to say, I think the spinning is what really makes Time Traveler. You are on the fence on that. You don't know if the spinning is what makes that right. For me, Time Traveler was all about the spin. And this ride's not going to have the spin, so I am a little bit more concerned about it.
I said this. I said the spinning is what sets Time Traveler apart in terms of the uniqueness and the I can't find this anywhere else. Copperhead Strike will not have that. However, I did say if Time Traveler didn't have the spinning cars, I don't know that I would think very much less of it.
See, that's where I disagree, because I do think I would think very much less of it. Because I feel it's the spinning aspect that not only made it unique, but made it a better ride. Like coming off that
I won't disagree that the spinning makes it a better ride, but I don't think the delta between spinning Time Traveler and non-spinning Time Traveler.
See, I disagree with that. I think having a non-spinning Time Traveler makes it a throwaway. I don't think this is going to be a throwaway. I think this has a lot more than Time Traveler does.
Let me say this. If you were to take this and a non-spinning Time Traveler, this looks to me like it would be the better ride.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, all right. So there we go.
This is going to be a solid ride. I am a little bit upset because I think this could have been an amazing ride if they added spinning to it, but I'm pretty sure Silver Dollar City wasn't going to let that happen.
Yeah.
You know, but anyway, like I said, this is what it is. I think it's going to be a good ride. I think it's going to be a fine addition to the park.
Yeah.
I
think there's a lot to be excited about with this ride.
I don't know how I'm going to rank it at the end of the day. Like this is one that I'm going to have to ride. A lot of times I walk in and I have a pretty good idea. This is one that I don't know how it's going to be.
Well, and I'll close with this for our buddy Rob Dole. I'm real excited to ride this and Blue Fire and Terran all in the same year, and sort of because Terran is the small, compact, really fast, low to the ground speed launch coaster, and then Blue Fire is the real big Mack launch coaster that people talk about, and then this is kind of like somewhere in between, I think, in terms of size and speed. So
we're gonna see. You know, like I said, I like a lot of what this ride does. I like a lot of what it, but do I think it could have been better? Yes. Do I think it's going to be good? Yes. Do I think it's what Carowinds needs? I don't know. So we're, you know, it's this is a ride that's going to have to prove itself to me, and that's that's what it comes down to. That it's here. This is what we have. And when I go and ride it sometime next year, it's going to have to prove itself to me for me to really make a final determination. I don't think that this is one that I'm going to be singing off, you know, on the mountaintops of, oh, you have to get here to ride it. This is one that's going to have to prove itself. And it's going to join a collection of rides this year that are going to have to prove itself.
Yeah, I think, you know, for me to close here, I think the right word to use for this ride is potential. I think there's a lot of potential for this ride to do a lot of great things. We'll see if it does.
Yeah, and I think we'll find out, you know, in the early spring next year, when presumably this opens, hopefully. So, as always, thank you for joining us there. We're going to have a whole bunch of other stuff coming up from Six Flags today, so don't worry. As always, I'm Andrew Barchek from Chicago, Illinois.
And I'm Danny Miller on Copperhead Road.
Right on, Ride Warriors. Hey,
drink up!
I'm picking that shutout there.
Drink up!
Oh, good Lord. You just